Namaste, everyone. Happy 2014 to you. My name is VerDarLuz. I'm a shamanic astrologer and human design life coach. Really excited to start off the year with you and share a couple aspects in the sky, a preview for this exciting and enlightening year ahead of us. So I wanted to give you a few videos here to get you started for the year ahead, to prepare and strategize and feel confident with your decision making and what's happening with the realms of career and relationships and politics and creativity. So I wanted to give you a few cycles that we can begin with here, and in some future videos we'll look at some other specific topics. So we're starting off 2014. Actually, we had a new moon on January 1st. So this was a really ideal time to set new intentions. And this is a good time to set intentions for the whole year ahead. Um, One of the things that's really coming up for us this year is a major theme, and it's really strong, especially in the month of January, is around conscious relating, sacred relating. This is because we start the year off with a Venus retrograde cycle. So Venus retrograde is a time where every 18 months, the planet of love, money, and creativity, she appears like she's going backward in the sky. And this goddess is asking us at this time to reflect on these themes. It's an internalization of what I truly value in my life. So why do I participate in the relationships that I do in my life? What kind of giving am I providing to others? What kind of receiving is coming towards me in those relationships? So naturally, all relationships go through some kinds of test during this time, some kind of questioning process, uh, an interrogation that is healthy. Um, it's actually a time of clarifying what we truly want in our relationship, what's motivating us in our partnerships. And this is also true for how we're earning our resources. And this is really about value system. Venus is really about value system. And as we go through a Venus retrograde, which began on December 21st, the solstice, and ends on January 31st, we're clarifying what's truly important to us. And as the Venus direct comes in February 1st, we want to feel confident with moving forward in our relationships, in our creative path, and in how we're earning our resources and how we're spending our resources. So we feel really in alignment with our values. So these are some questions to ask. Do I feel like I'm in a balanced, harmonious partnership currently in my life? If not, what adjustments do I need to make? Venus in Capricorn also is about long-term sustainability. So what would be a kind of relationship that I would be willing to commit to give 110%? It's a real Capricornian way of being in relationship, thinking of the long term, thinking of what kinds of projects are we working on together, what kind of stable structures can we build a pyramid of love and connection upon. And this is true for business relationships, intimate relationships, friendships. This cycle probably does emphasize relationships of business for a lot of us, because Capricorn is a sign that associates with professionalism in life and also with being in integrity. So this cycle will make us really look at, how do I respect myself and feel like I'm respecting others in relationship. So we ask sort of deeper questions during a Venus retrograde. If you can think back to when Venus was retrograde last, let's see, it was May and June of 2012. Think back to some of your relationship initiations and rites of passage at that time. This is a similar cycle, but we have her in Capricorn. So long-term relationships, what am I committed to? What will be stabilizing forces in my life? And if we don't feel like we're in connections that feel like they have a solid ground under them, we may make a shift during this time. Now, also Venus retrograde tends to bring in old relationships or old contacts or old lovers into our life, because they help to clarify what has been and what may be important to us for our future. And the same is true about money in our life. We want to be putting it now, really clarifying over the year Where do I want to spend my money? Travel, um, or things I need to buy, and really strategizing, Capricorn, and being accountable for where I'm putting my financial resources. Creatively, what long-term projects am I working on? What am I willing to commit to? Can I deepen that process through some study or a more disciplined path, Capricorn? Again, now when Venus goes direct, she'll be conjunct Pluto. And this is a really important time because um, that will be around the last week of January, first week of February. This is going to be a great time of transformation in our relationships. There may be some relationships that end. There may be some relationships that are taken to a whole new level of depth. It's a great time for studying Tantra, for doing Kundalini-based connection work with our partners, working with a real depth and a real intense soul gazing between us and those in our lives. If not, we may find ourselves in power struggles or control issues, jealousy that can come in during that cycle. It's really a time to release all the stories around relating, all the holding on, the resistances that we may still have lurking in us as we attempt to move forward, to this next age, this emerging Aquarian age. And this year, in terms of the Aquarian movement, is, like we said, a lot about relationships. That's because we have a long cycle as well of Mars and Libra. Mars moved into Libra mid-December. And usually Mars is in a sign for about 2 months, but he's actually in Libra into July. And it's about an 8-month cycle, which is very unusual. And this is because Mars is also going retrograde in 2014. So we have 2 big retrograde cycles to start off the year. He moves retrograde March 1st until May 19th. And again, the whole time in the sign of Libra. And right away, we know that the warrior, the source of passion and drive and motivation and fire in us, this God force of Mars, is in the sign of the lover, the diplomat, the peacemaker, the sign of balance and justice, but also of art and aesthetics. Libra is all of these things. So it's like our third chakra, which is typically a place of defense or territory or ego, now has to move up into the realm of the heart. And this is really going to emphasize a process in us of looking around us. Who's showing up in my life? What reflections are here? What's motivating these different relationships? It's very similar to having the Venus retrograde cycle. So one of the things we learned during Mars retrogrades is that we need to really be careful and cautious about what steps forward we're taking in our life. Mars typically loves to jump in. He's the sign of the the planet of the general and the warrior. But when he's retrograde, we need to kind of calm the fires a bit, simmer down a bit, and really get clear about why we're doing what we're doing. And this also, this cycle makes us look at our sexual practices. What is my erotic energy like? What's motivating that? Do I feel like there's an equal give and receive? Are my relationships very healthy because Mars is in Libra? And healthy is not codependent. And that's one of the Libra shadows, where we feel like, well, I really need you and you really need me. And this is part of that shift during the Aquarian age. Are we able to move out of the codependency, out of this need-based, hunger-based kind of relating, and into a relating of freedom, of, wow, I don't need you, but I can grow through a relationship with you. And there's pieces of what you've developed in your soul and pieces of what I've developed in my soul that coming together, when we collaborate, we can arise. We can arise into something more empowered, more illuminated, more enlightening, more beautiful. And there is a cycle of beauty here with Mars and Libra. We're learning how to communicate with each other in a more balanced way, a more justice-filled way, and to really listen. And this is why this is a cycle where we really benefit from holding back a little bit, not pushing our energies too strong, but getting clear about what's motivating us. Now that can at times be a bit frustrating. Mars retrograde cycles can be frustrating, especially in Libra. It's like we can turn to the next person over here and over here. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You know what? And we don't actually go anywhere with it. So that the high side of that is getting clarity about what we're doing, why we're doing it, but we may not be able to make a decision immediately with that. And we benefit from taking the time to really weigh out the options. But it's important to not be projecting on our partners during the Mars retrograde. Now, the biggest time where this could get real hot and volatile is during the big Cardinal Cross. This is the big configuration this year. It's Mars in Libra retrograde. And he's opposite Uranus in Aries, right there. Very potent, very powerful, very reactive energy. Then we square that to Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto is opposite Jupiter. So we have Jupiter squaring Mars, Jupiter squaring Uranus, Pluto squaring Uranus, Pluto squaring Mars. This is a grand Cardinal Cross. Huge energy in the sky, affecting the sun of the U.S., the life force, the vitality of the U.S. birth chart. This will probably be a big, impactful time for Barack Obama, the leadership and direction of this country. Where is it going? Are we going to have a breakthrough? Is it going to be about new energy? Is it going to be about a unity consciousness, between the people and the government here? Or is it going to be a revolution and a rebellion? We know that Uranus and Pluto square has been in the sky for a few years, really since about 2010. This is the big aspect in the sky for this entire decade. Really strong, though, between 2012 and 2015. Now, if you think back, the most recent expression of these two archetypes, Uranus and Pluto, was in the 1960s. They were in the same sign then. Now they're in a square. And what we see is Pluto's in Capricorn. Pluto is the agent of transformation, death and rebirth, the god of the underworld. And he comes in and he's an excavator. Pluto's like an archaeologist going down and saying, hey, look deeper here. What's beneath the surface? And as you go below, you unveil these hidden aspects. And the hidden aspects of Capricorn is everything we've been seeing in government in the last few years. That we can't rely on the government, we can't trust the government's going to break down, shut down, and all the resources we've been putting in, are they really supporting us? And this is being asked collectively. It's being asked very strongly in the U.S. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn was when the U.S. was founded. It was during the Revolution, the American Revolution. It was the Declaration of Independence. It was also during the French Revolution. So you get the spirit of revolution very strong with Uranus and Pluto and Capricorn, where the systems, the structures, the institutions, governments, banks, schools, hospitals, all of these bigger institutions are being very much tested by Pluto. Are you evolutionary? And if not, then there's going to be a revolution in those institutions. And that revolution is coming from the spirit of Uranus. Uranus is in Aries. Uranus is the great awakener. Uranus is a Promethean spirit helping to liberate us. And he brings great change. And in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, this is a real fiery expression of the great liberator. It's a real entrepreneurial energy. It's a real energy that asks every one of us as individuals, what can I bring to the revolution and to the evolution? So Uranus is wild, and this energy can be a bit chaotic, especially as this Cardinal Cross comes in. Now, that chaos can bring innovation, invention, excitement, cultural, an effusion of cultural, an explosion of new ideas, new concepts, new art, which has been happening the last couple of years. If you go to any festivals, if you see that festival Burning Man has 60,000 people now, it's this annual city that's created and destroyed. More and more people are coming to festivals where people can teach their workshops. They can have these open exchanges. They can have music of all kinds, art painted in front of them. that there's this synesthesia that's happening where art, music, dance, um, learning is all happening over the course of a weekend, and there's great transformation in a short amount of time. That is the Uranus-Pluto square, and it goes into this sort of cauldron of catharsis and creative uh, e- explosion during the month of April. Now, this is the exact Cardinal Cross. And this can be very exciting, very liberating. Something new could really be born out of this. But it can also be very violent on the planet. And the reason is Mars and Pluto by themselves are very violent. Uranus throws a wild card, a kind of chaotic element into the mix, a little trickster mix into everything. And Jupiter always expands and grows whatever he's touching. So if you throw Jupiter into a very explosive environment, um, there could be some real violent upheaval happening, and we see that during every Uranus-Pluto combination. But if you bring Jupiter and Mars in, it could get pretty intense. But at the same time, it can be very empowering for these new collaborations that are forming through the Mars and Libra retrograde. And so I really want to inspire everyone to really take the reins this winter into spring to really collaborate and arise. That was the talk that I gave on the entire year ahead. This is sort of a synopsis. Lastly, I'll say that if you're going to be launching a project, one of the best times to do it in the immediate future could be the first week of February, because that's when the moon is waxing, which is always a good time to launch. And also, it's when there aren't any planets retrograde, at least the personal planets like Mercury or Mars or Venus. So we may have more clarity, we have a lot of motivation, we have the momentum, and that could be a good time to launch. But once we get into February 6th, 7th, this is Mercury going retrograde. That's the first Mercury retrograde of the year. And that's a time where travel, communications, technology, there can be delays, there can be miscommunications, there can be loss of information. So you want to be careful around that cycle and do some protection around those important documents and communications between you and others. Usually not the best time to begin business ventures. So we want to look at maybe the first week of February, if you can, for launching something major. By March 1st, Mars goes retrograde. Also not the best time to launch something. So, lots of clarifying this year, lots of turning to each other, what's best. And I think that is where we're going to, through the group consciousness, really help each other align, alight, enlighten, illuminate each other's paths. It's going to be a very exciting year. A lot is going to happen this year. This is going to be probably the year to remember for a lot of us. This, again, is just a nutshell of some of the big themes coming up this year. I have a longer talk called 2014 Collaborate and Rise. You can purchase it on my website if you like. Because the year is so focused on relationship, I'm doing another weekend-long webinar that's going to be called the Relationship Wisdom Weekend. We're going to be going into all of the aspects of relationship that you don't hear about in sun sign columns or in most astrology. We're going to talk about Venus, the goddess, Mars, the god, in the different signs of the zodiac. Also going to talk about the moon as emotional needs in our life, and Mercury as communication styles between us and our partner. My beloved Anya is going to share some things about herbology and ways that we can use herbs and aphrodisiacs to bond and blend with our partners and awaken our senses. We're also going to use some tantric techniques and teach you in some tantric techniques to build your intimacy and your bondedness with your partners. It's going to be really exciting. There's some info on my website about that. I teach monthly teleclasses on the archetypes, and this month we'll be teaching in January about career, vocation, and soul purpose. Capricorn, Saturn, all of the archetypes of career and achievement and ambition in our life. So I hope you be able to join one of these classes or check out a reading, a consultation in human design or astrology. And it's been really awesome to share this with you guys, to start the year with you. Stay tuned for more videos about the 2014 alignments and all things astrological and human design. Much love and light. Namaste.